Javier is going to share his personal and professional story. So as with the other guest speakers, if you have questions while he's speaking, you can type them into the chat and then we'll have a dialogue afterwards. Él va a hablar en los dos idiomas, es inglés y español, para que todos puedan entender. Y si alguien tiene una pregunta, puedes escribir la pregunta en el chat y vamos a hablar con Javier después de su presentación. Entonces, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Erin. Hi, everybody. Hi, well, good morning. Hope everybody is enjoying, what's today, Thursday? I've lost track of the day.
I think so.
And I really appreciate you guys putting some time on Zoom, especially knowing how difficult it is. But I think I'm here just to kind of share some wisdom, share some experiences, también reconectar con las personas, estudiantes que están en su primer año de la secundaria aquí en Providence. Entonces, really quickly, I'm going to jump back and forth in English and Spanish. But if you have any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat, stop me, and then we can kind of go. I have a really weird and quirky story. It's like a tragic story, but it's a happy story. It's a violent story, but it's like something that I think if I knew people that went through some of the things that I did at a young age, right? When I was in high school, especially, I think it would help me really make some really good decisions. But I mean, I graduated in high school in 2007 from Cranston East, right? Me gradué en el 2007 en Cranston East. Y de verdad no habían tantas personas, like people that didn't look like me, they weren't there. So like my teachers were all white, my guidance counselors were all white, and I was undocumented, right? I was undocumented. So that mix of things, me being Spanish, me being in a predominantly white space, me being undocumented was like this crazy thing to know for an educator because they didn't know how to properly guide me, right? Las cosas que yo tenía, que era latino, que estaba estudiando en una escuela que había más personas gringas o bueno, blancas, como le decimos nosotros. Y ser indocumentado era una cosa muy difícil para los profesores o guidance counselors, ¿no? Porque no sabían cómo ellos me podían guiar bien. And unfortunately, they didn't give me the right direction because they just didn't know. And no blame to them, but this is how diversity is so important in the education space, because now me being in this position, right, and as the executive director of the Providence Student Union, I am able to listen to the stories of our youth and properly guide them to the resources that they need. So a lot of our youth in Providence have been failed by the education system, right? Because not only are their buildings deteriorating, not only is the curriculum not efficient for our demographic of students, right? Sabiendo que el sistema de la escuela de Providence no es tan bueno, sabiendo que hay muchas personas que están siendo fracasadas por el sistema. Yo sabiendo todas estas cosas y mi experiencia, yo puedo ayudar, ¿no?, a la comunidad, a los estudiantes. I can help this community kind of move forward because education literally is an aspect of everyday life here. So I'm really happy to be in this position. It gives me a lot of movement and a lot of autonomy and program creation. You guys have seen, if you guys know what PSU does, si ustedes saben lo que hace la Unión de Estudiantes de Providence, you have seen us on the streets doing demonstrations. You have seen us push for systematic changes in the public education system, creating a Bill of Rights for students that just ask for basic needs, like essentials, like, you know, transportation and good quality food. These are the things that people are like, whoa, like that is crazy. Like, why are you thinking about that? And this is the things that youth are looking for in the education right now that they're not getting. But maybe people in Warwick, people in like South County, like Narragansett, maybe they're getting these things. So that is like not unheard of for them. But here in Providence, it is very relevant, especially the Providence Student Union. El edificio de donde yo trabajo está atrás de Classical High School, está atrás de la Central, está atrás de PCTA. We're right behind those 3 high schools. So it's a good kind of location to bring people in, but also we have to be accessible to Hope and Mount Pleasant and all the other high schools that are a little further away. So this is why I'm here, to just kind of also expand and create more access to what we do. So a little bit about me. I told you I kind of have a really quirky background. I call it quirky because it's quirky to me now, but it was really not quirky at all. It's actually kind of confusing. So I was born in Peru. Yo nací en Perú. Me mudé aquí a Estados Unidos a los 10 años, right? I moved here to the US around when I was 10 with my dad. I crossed the border illegally, right? I'm super clear about that. My trajectory to the US was very much needed as an emergency financial situation for my family in Peru. And that trajectory just tells you how bad things are, that a family has to physically move to have a better start somewhere else, right? Sabemos que personas vienen a Estados Unidos para crear un nuevo futuro para los hijos o para su familia, y eso nos hace como tener la conversación que por qué la situación era tan mala en los países de origen que ellos han tenido que venir aquí a Estados Unidos, ¿no? Y usualmente es financiera, ¿no? O pierden un trabajo y no hay dinero. There's literally no money to like eat and survive in these countries. I'm from a very poor part of Peru, a very dangerous part of Peru, and I lived there as a 10-year-old kid playing soccer, moving around, and I was blessed to have parents that really thought about my education of being a big component to my overall growth. So education was kind of like my fallback. Soccer and education were my fallback things for me to kind of move. So the story how I make it to the US, I mean, you guys kind of know what crossing the border is, but it's much more than just crossing a physical barrier. It's like a story is behind it. Like, it's like a orchestration of planning that has to go around it, right? Cruzar el border ilegalmente no solamente es cruzar, es una planificación de personas, una planificación financiera también que van a hacer las familias para poder hacer eso. Es un acto, obviamente, sabemos que es ilegal. We know that it's an illegal thing, but we know that a lot of people cross the border all the time. So this is why the wall is not going to do anything. People are going to find a way around it. And also, people overstay their visas, right? So we also have to think about that. Immigration is not just through the border. People overstay their visas. People find other ways to get into the country. So I digress. Sabemos que el muro no sirve porque muchas personas siguen entrando al país, pero esto es, muchas personas también se quedan más de su visa, entonces es otra manera de entrar al país ilegalmente, ¿no? Entre comillas. So a quick story about that. I was 10, I went with my dad. We stayed in Ciudad Juarez for around like 2 weeks as we tried to properly move to Texas, to the side of Texas. And like I said, it's not just you just walk. It's a sneaky way of doing it, right? So you literally have to hide yourself, have to run, have to go maybe under a bridge and over a river. My dad was the first one to do it, and I stayed back. I stayed back because the person that was helping us get there was like, hey, we have a better chance if we do it one by one. That way we don't take too much space, they don't catch us, right? I was 10 years old, so I wasn't gonna put any input in that situation. So I just kind of trusted the system. My father went, he was on the other side, no problem. So then the next day was my turn to go. And unfortunately, yo no podía pasar. I couldn't cross. There was always something happening that we had to come back to the house we were staying at because there was either too many police, maybe it was too bright, there was maybe extra ICE agents there, or around that time, immigration police. So it takes me around 10 days to actually do it. So me toca unos 10 días para entrar al país ilegalmente y esos tiempos fueron muy difíciles para mí, ¿no? I was a 10-year-old kid in a stranded place. I didn't know anyone. The people that were housing us, I never had contact with. They were just doing their job, and I was just staying like at a couch. So as a 10-year-old boy, a lot of things could have gone wrong just trying to make it here. So this is how high the stakes were for a family to make this decision, that it could have gone very bad, as in one of us could have gotten hurt, one of us could have gotten killed just to make it here, right? So me telling you this now in this position, in this like beautiful office, is like a night and day opportunity for our family. And that was the risk the whole time, right? Ese fue el riesgo que la familia, mi papá, que también se llama Javier, tuvo la decisión para hacer, porque en estos días, bueno, yo tengo 31 años en estos momentos, estamos en una parte de nuestra vida que es completamente diferente de lo que teníamos en antes, right? So I'm telling you this story now as a 31-year-old man, when I was a 10-year-old boy 21 years ago when I came to the US. Did I ever think I was going to graduate high school or Rhode Island College or Brown University at that point? No, I was literally trying to survive, to not get hurt or kidnapped or nothing bad to happen in Mexico. I was 10, but I already knew all these things. I knew that I was in an unsafe place just from the things that I saw. So I was stranded in Ciudad Juarez for 10 days by myself. So that's when, like, rethinking back of that time of like, what was I doing? I think I kind of had the same mentality of like, I just need to like be nice and be respectful and then just listen and make it. But we couldn't. The days went by and I was still, I was starting to get worried. Things got so bad that my dad called the place, right? I think he called like a public phone and we went to it. And my dad was talking to me and he didn't think it was me. That's how bad the situation has gotten, that my dad thought that they were putting just a kid on the phone so he can alleviate his anxiety and his concern that I was on my way. My dad started asking me questions about my family, like, hey, what's the nickname? What do I say to your mom when I do this? Obviously I knew it and it was me, but my dad's voice, I can hear it. It was like cracking. It was very, he just didn't believe me. So I tell you that from my perspective. And then I have had that conversation with my dad about his perspective into the whole matter of sending your firstborn son to a country that we don't really know too much about and waiting daily on an update of like, hey, here's your son, here's, things like that. So that was a very hard time. Ese fue un tiempo muy difícil porque físicamente estábamos separados, ¿no? We were separated. So family separation comes into play right now, is very relevant. But people that are doing these plans or orchestrating this stuff, the separation happens immediately, right? Even when we made it here, even when my dad and I make it to Providence, my family was in Peru, my mom, my two older sisters, and for like maybe 4 years, actually longer, maybe for like 6 years, my dad begins, supporting them. Well, he's supporting all of us throughout this whole thing, but they finally have enough money to be able to make it here to the US. So that time of that family separation is very relevant because in Peru, we were always together, right? We were always together. We had dinner together every night. My dad was an engineer. My mom was just a homemaker, and that just got destroyed as soon as we make it to the US. And that's just the reality of an immigrant family, especially a first generation family that has crossed the border. I tell you all of this not to like make you feel bad or to like make you think about immigration in a different way. I tell you because you may come across this as an educator or as a student, right? Si tú eres un estudiante y tienes esta misma historia, te cuento esta historia porque personas como tú existen, and for educators, you need to know how to react to this trauma. I'm older now, so I have come to terms with the trauma that I experienced when I was 10, and I think it plays a lot of part with my success in education, right? I always felt indebted that I was here for a reason. And all these sacrifices have been done for me to succeed. So that put a lot of pressure on my overall progress in education and professional, my professional career. And I'm not done. So for me to tell you that I'm not done at 31 tells you that I still have a lot left to do. So whether you familiarize yourself with that story, just of me and my family being able to make it here, or if you just familiarize yourself, maybe I have heard this story before. I mean, I have heard this story from other immigrants that I know, very similar stories. So this is kind of plays part of our community and our culture here in Providence, especially with first generation immigrants. So that wasn't even the hardest part, right? That wasn't the hardest part of that experience, right? Crossing the border, you would think it was like this massive thing. It was very dangerous, I will admit that. But the assimilation that happens after, right? When I come here as a 10-year-old kid and I get into the American school system, I have to learn how to speak English. I have to understand all these American norms. I have to understand what Thanksgiving is and like chowder and like Dulce lemonade is. Like all these things just didn't exist in my world. I have to slowly acclimate to this new culture. And that was, I think, very difficult for me and my father. I mean, my father came older, like a 40-year-old person, man, and just began working at like a laundromat. So think about that, like an engineer, a well-respected engineer, had to just take any type of job so he can be self-sufficient and make money. That's a much larger sacrifice in a conversation that a lot of people maybe are not ready to have that conversation. And I think that's why, you know, I always think about my family of like making that decision, right? I don't know, maybe we can have this conversation later, but like, I don't know if I would make that decision right now if I had it. I mean, maybe I would, right? I don't have kids or family right now. But if I was pushed to the wall, maybe I would have to do something crazy. Like it's a crazy decision. But I've been so Americanized now that I think it's so far away from me, right? So the sacrifice, right? The dreamers, or you know, the dreamers, ellos son los que traen esa energía, esa ética de trabajador, esa ética de ser una persona que persiste, ¿no? Ese es el sueño original, que trayendo esos, bringing that perspective into an American world, that you should be able to succeed. I mean, and I'm proof of that, right? I think I'm very stubborn. I didn't get to RIC right away. I actually applied to RIC after high school and they told me I didn't have the grades. I took the SATs, I was terrible. I'm really bad at standardized testing because I learned English later in my life. My math and my English were really low, right? But that's because the education system was not built for people like me. So I just kind of survived throughout that, right? El sistema de educación no fue construido con el mente de ayudar a estudiantes como yo, que no habla inglés, que es completamente de otra cultura, que de repente no entiende la historia americana. Pero sí, me gradué de la secundaria y apliqué a Rhode Island College, ¿no? Porque todos mis amigos iban a ir a una de las universidades, right? All my friends were going to go to some type of college. And when I go to do that process, after my guidance counselor told me no, that I had no option because I was undocumented, I still do it, knowing that I may not even get in. And, you know, RIC does reject me. I take that as that. Like, it was just a rejection. I got the decision. Now I got to move to get there. So I enrolled at CCRI, right? I pay for my classes. I retake new math and English and things like that to get better. And I end up at Rhode Island College 2 years later, right after I do my associate's degree. So CCRI and my associate's degree was actually one of the most important degrees I could get from the options that I had, right? It was go to CCRI or go work being a landscaper. Like that's what my guidance counselor said. Maybe you should start your own business. I hear there's a lot of work in gardening and landscaping. And I took that as in like, okay, well, if I have to do that, I will, right? Just to survive and live. But as a guidance counselor, I feel like you should problem solve, right? Not just direct people the wrong way. And I don't blame that person, but I do blame the system for not teaching them properly of like how to approach a student that has this particular situation, right? Entonces a los estudiantes que están aquí, ¿no? Eso fue una de las cosas muy difíciles para mí, escuchar y entender y seguir haciendo lo que yo. Education was always built into me and my brain from my family. Pero imagino a las personas que no tienen ese tipo de apoyo, que no creen en la educación, y estas decisiones son más difíciles, ¿no? Mientras que tú progresas en la secundaria. But I didn't listen to my guidance counselor, right? I applied to RIC, I got rejected, I went to CCRI, I did the best that I could. My English was better at that point. I was a better writer. I was able to express myself better, and I ended up at Rhode Island College. And that was like a victory for my entire family, because I was the first person to go to a 4-year institution. Now, we're Rhode Islanders, so we think this into a national perspective. Rhode Island College is very small comparing to like Texas, California, but I didn't care. That was the win, and that was why my parents came here. But that's not my reality. My reality was not that. My reality was you're still an undocumented person. There's no help for you to succeed at Rhode Island College. So I had to drop out. I couldn't afford it. Tuition was 5 times as much as CCRI. I had to take the decision to just work full time because I was now inheriting debt, right? Yo tuve que salir de Rhode Island College por unos años porque no tenía el dinero para poder pagar los biles, los libros. ¿Por qué? Porque el Rhode Island College cuesta casi 5 veces más que el CCRI, ¿no? Entonces yo tuve que tener esa decisión personal que tenía que salir de ese lugar porque solamente estaba teniendo más deudas que tener dinero. Y financially, for a first generation immigrant family, finances are very, very important because it really makes you move. My parents are still paying for the house right now, like all these other things. And adding an extra expense like a college tuition was just catastrophic. You're talking about $30,000, $40,000. But that's okay. Like that's your reality. As long as you understand that, and then you try to problem solve, and then if you have the support system around you, whether it's mentors, teachers, educators, they can help you get there. And I think that's what happened with me. So after I dropped out from Rhode Island College, I began working at a food truck, you know, under the table. Under the table, I started working, trying to save as much money as possible, trying to pay RIC back for all the classes that I took. That was really hard. I think that was harder, again, than doing all these things before because you want to be able to produce and make money and help your family and help others. But when you don't have access to these things, then it makes it very, very difficult. So I did that for around like 4 years, actually. And then 2012 came and the DACA program, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals came. President Obama signs it into an executive order. It was just a piece of paper that said, hey, you can work now. And that just flips the entirety of my life, right? Because I have a work permit. 2012 happens, I get a work permit right away. I go apply to a job. I have an associate's degree by CCRI. So people look at me, they're like, okay, you have some type of education. You can work here. I was working at a call center. And I succeed there, right? Because I have some type of education behind me. And I make it, and I make it, and I make it. I save some money. I make enough money to make the decision that I have to return to finish this bachelor's degree at RIC. I pay it cash. Again, I'm still considered an international or a non-traditional student at Rhode Island College. I go to class and go summer class, summer 1, summer 2. I finish entire 2 years in around like 10 months, just because it was so important for me to level up and get that bachelor's degree. And through that trajectory, you know, I find different teachers and professors that are like, hey, like, this is good. This is a good way to move forward. You have good interests. You have good research interests, right? So I started understanding academia, right? I started understanding what education really is. Before I was just doing it so I can have a diploma, because I knew it was going to be more money eventually. But once I'm there, I understand that there's a system for academia that I had never had access to. And now somehow I have access to it now, and I understand how things work. I understand what a PhD is. I understand what a master's degree does. I understand what people that have a college degree, how many options and access to other things have. So I looked at my trajectory and I said, I can do more now. So I decided to apply to Brown University to get a graduate degree, with the focus that I'm going to bring access to education and advocate for the community that doesn't have it, which is the undocumented community, the first-gen community, the Black and brown people that live in Providence that have never stepped foot into Brown. And that kind of takes them for a loop, because no one has asked for access before. It was just like, I want to study here because this is the best place to study in the world, right? I was doing just the next logical thing for me, to my progress. So luckily, I get accepted into Brown to do a master's degree in American Studies. But you know, things are never easy. Things are never just that easy for us, right? They're not that easy for us. I laugh because I got this shiny new letter of acceptance, right? They're like, congratulations, you made it, you're here. Do you have $60,000 to give us right now? Because master's degrees are not funded, right? Entonces entro a la Universidad de Brown, uno de mis sueños, una cosa que nunca pensé en toda mi vida hacer. Me dieron mi invitación, mi paquete de invitación, que había entrado a la universidad, ha sido aceptado, pero el paquete también dice que yo tengo que pagar $60,000 para poder entrar al programa. ¿De dónde voy a encontrar $60,000? Where am I going to find $60,000? Like, I'm low income person. Like I told you, my parents are still paying for their mortgage. Like I had worked, but I wasn't making $60,000. I was probably making like $38,000, just like any other person out there, right? I had some benefits and things like that, great. But where was I going to find the $60,000 to actually do this? Again, it's never easy. Something always has to happen. And this is where we go back to the values that were set in with my family. Okay, let's look at this holistically. Let's see what we can do. My parents were ready to put their house in the market. Like, think about that. That's how these people think. These people are crazy. Like, I don't know if I will ever do that for my kids. Not yet, at least, right? I don't have kids. I can't say that. But they were ready to make that move for me. And I said no. I don't think it was worth it. It was too much money. I think I was happy to just say, at least I know that I'm supposed to be here, right, from this piece of paper. And I go back and I try to explain my situation, and I actually start advocating for myself. And like, this is the problem with the access of education. You're not really giving me the access. You're just saying that you would, but I'm still not worthy enough to be in this campus because I come from another world that you guys don't live in. That opened some eyes, sparked some conversations. I got really like Malcolm X-y at one point and was just demanding. I was already accepted, but now I was demanding a position. I was demanding to be there. I was saying that I am going to make this experience better for not only the other students that are going to be with me, but for teachers that have never seen people like me before. And it is crazy because I literally live 10 minutes away from Brown, you know? That sparked a conversation. I end up speaking with like deans and the president of the university. They could have just said no. And they said, we'll fully fund you. You just have to, you know, not fail out, which is hard too, because it's pretty hard to be in there. It was like a challenging place. That was actually the hardest time academically for me. And it was tough. But you have to have that conversation. You have to, your story is so powerful. Tu historia es muy poderosa, no? Bueno, estamos with the theme, right? Your story is going to take you places. Those lived experiences, esas experiencias que tú has vivido de niño, de adolescente, con tus padres, valores que ellos te han dado en toda tu vida, eso un día va a ser un resultado que ni siquiera has pensado. Like, I never thought I was going to make it there, right? I never thought that. Again, I was just trying to not get kidnapped in Mexico and survive. When I moved here, I was just trying to graduate from elementary school and go to middle school and play soccer and be sane. When I was in high school, I just wanted to graduate. I didn't have the grades. I got rejected from all these other colleges. I just wanted to be a normal person. But I had a lot of obstacles and I had to do a lot of difficult things to do. So my last semester at Brown, I'm rounding up. I feel very like refreshed. It was very tiring and it was very challenging for sure. But then I get asked to be the speaker of of graduation. And what am I supposed to say? No, like that's a major opportunity and a privilege to do that. Not a lot of people get to do that in their lives. So I said I would do it, but I would do it the way that I want to do it. They wanted to craft the message for me. They wanted to tokenize me. And that will happen. But if you have control and you're proud of your story, if you're transparent of your realities and you know it's going to help others, this stuff comes easy, right? Cuando tú estás en las oportunidades de ayudar a otras personas que no necesariamente ya no es tú, o ya no eres, tú no estás hablando de ti, estás hablando de otras personas y estás ayudando a otra comunidad, es una cosa más grande. This like elevates that, it lessens the burden on you because you're thinking, oh, what am I going to say, right? This is about me, not about anybody else. No, this is about the community that got you there, right? Because I didn't get there by myself. I got there with other people and support systems. So at the commencement ceremony, I started by speaking Spanish. I greeted everyone with Spanish. Buenas tardes, bienvenidos a la Universidad of Brown University. Because no one has ever greeted them in Spanish. No one has ever greeted them at the university ever. They were supposed to be privileged to just sit there. And then I go in a tangent of, I'm an undocumented person, I'm not supposed to be here. People are surprised, people are confused, they don't know whether to clap or like boo me. But I make the case that I'm here because the people that brought me here are here right now. So my parents were there. So I give them a second to take a bow and say, like, I'm here because of them. They're the original dreamers, right? My father and my mother, they were there. Obviously, they understood what I was saying, and they broke down themselves because it was this full circle thing. And it's still happening every day, if I'm being honest, because they're still alive. I'm not dead. But that was just a culmination of a lot of sacrifices, hard work, financial instability, family separation, rejection, pride, to this point where these very privileged folks at Brown University had to listen to me, right? They had to listen to me. They had to listen to my story. And whether or not they agreed with immigration or my story or people like me, they had to respect that I was there, right? That I was graduating with the best of the best. that I was there representing for people that look like me. They had to respect that, right? So that story and that message, you can see it on YouTube, is awesome. I think I'm proud of that most because you can go back and look at it and you can see the people's faces. They're like, what the fuck is happening? Sorry. And that message spreads, right? Because again, I wasn't talking about me. I was talking about every single immigrant family that is trying to better themselves and their kids and their generation and looking for stability all throughout the country. So the message itself, the video, the message catches, it goes viral and it moves around, and people start calling me, people start trying to just pick my brain, like, hey, like, how can I do what you're doing? And I don't have the answer to that, right? But what I can do right now, what I have control over is advocating for the next generation of young people of color that want to be in those spaces, that want to succeed in those spaces, and that have the talent right now to be able to do those things. If I can advocate and I can push Brown University to create a bigger open space, I can push Rhode Island College to be a more accessible place, I can push any other higher education place to be more accessible to people like us, then that's what I was set out to do, right? It's just Brown is so easy. They're just a giant university, and they have so many resources, and they have caused so much harm to our community and to Providence. So that's a layup for me. But let's talk about the access of higher education overall. That is still very, very much far away from where it needs to be. So I love not only sharing that story to educators, to students, to professors, to administrators, because that is a reality. People don't have to, personas no deben de tener tantas dificultades para llegar donde ellos necesitan llegar. People don't need to go through the hardships to get where they need to be or get the access and resources that they need to have to succeed. I am telling you, like, I wish for the students that are listening here that you don't have to go through all that crap, the rejections, the money, and you could just go. You could just see yourself at Brown. Like, I'm gonna go to Brown because that's what I want to do. And Brown says, yes, like, bring it on, because we want to build with you. That is not our reality right now. But that's what PSU is pushing for, right? We hold Brown accountable, we hold RIC accountable, or PC accountable, URI accountable for bringing, not just looking at us for tuition money, but to really helping us develop into being visionaries and intellectuals and people that want to help the community and just the next generation of leaders. And that, I think, is really going to move us as a community, us as Rhode Island, to do better things. I mean, that's kind of the mentality that California does, right? They're like the tech people, right? They have that already. It's like their culture. They want to start a new startup and they become like the next Apple product. Here in Rhode Island, we don't have that just yet, but it's because we need to create it. And I think the students that are going into high school, the educators that are listening in, the professors, we need to push that culture. As much as accountability is great for, they need to hold us accountable, right? Too, like the students and people are doing this work in the community. So in a nutshell, that trajectory has made me, right? I'm a result of that trajectory now, right? So I'm 31 now. I worked at CCRI for a little bit, working at the CCRI Foundation in fundraising, which unfortunately is a very good skill to have. I say that unfortunately because it's very icky talking about money and asking other people for money. But if I'm asking Bill Gates for $1 million, because I know he has $2 billion, and I'm gonna reinvest that in our community, like that, I will do that work all day. But not enough people that look like me are having those conversations. And this is why white-led youth nonprofit organizations have all this money and all these resources, and then youth organizations like us are smaller. We don't have that. We're very much still surviving, getting some grants here and there, trying to create a better structure for our organization. But I hope to change that. I hope to be that person that changes that. And I can't do any of that without the youth that represent the organization, right? So regresamos a los estudiantes que están en la llamada. No podemos hacer este trabajo, ¿no?, de abogacía con la comunidad, no podemos ayudar a la comunidad si los estudiantes o los jóvenes no quieren hacer ese trabajo conmigo. Yo necesito ayuda de personas jóvenes que están pensando en ser profesionales en su vida o ayudar a la comunidad. No lo puedo hacer solo, entonces ustedes tienen que co-crear conmigo. We have to co-create something better because my generation's done. I think my high school experience is not the same as your high school experience. So you have to come and push us to think about those things. So it's a challenge, right? And educators too. You guys have to be adaptable to what is happening now. Not only sharing good syllabi with each other, but intentionally creating new culture and a better, more accessible, racially equitable way of pedagogy, right? So yeah, I can flip it. I can go academic. I can talk real community stuff. I've been in those spaces. So I have the privilege of being able to use all these things, come back to PSU, create new things. So if you guys are interested in doing that work with me, please hit me up. We need more local people. We need more RIC people. Brown people, all they do is hit me up to do this work with me. And I can't do this work with them. I can't do it. They are not relatable to what's happening here. They come from different states. They come from money. So it's really hard for me to say, hey, there's dirty water at Central High School. They're like, what? They don't have water? Yes, we're talking very essential basics here. So it's hard, it's more labor. It's more labor for me to ground them, to make them understand what is happening, than to have someone like Beto that I have known for a long time and say, Beto, are you ready to do this? And he's like, yeah, I know the problem. Like, let's do it, right? It's so much easier. Or a student that is like, I need this, and I need this because I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it in high school. And we create those things for the students. But bring in people that are not us into the mix. It creates more work for POC-led organizations. And that's the truth. And I think that's something that I've only shared in this space. I had a call with Brown this morning. They wanna bring us more students. And I said, oh, let me think about it. But ultimately the work is the labor and the labor is the work. And we still have to produce, or else why would we exist, right? So I'll stop right there because I said a lot. But what is next for PSU is to build a chapter at every high school, really fortify our membership, create access to what we do, to ELL learners, to people, personas que no entienden inglés todavía y quieren hacer algo. Personas existen que hablan español y son muy inteligentes, solamente el obstáculo de inglés. Pero te podemos ayudar. Tú puedes tener esas ideas y nosotros, es nuestro trabajo de crear contigo una nueva manera de pensar. Por eso queremos también introducir nuevos programas para estudiantes que necesitan más ayuda en inglés, a sus padres que necesitan inglés. Why? Because also parents need to be educated on what is happening around them. I have had multiple calls with parents already. They don't know how to spell Mount Pleasant. They don't know how to spell their high schools. They don't know where it is. They just know that the kids are going to school. That is the big miscommunication of parents and the education system, because they don't know if it's working. They don't know if it's good. They don't know if it's failing. I know though. And it's my job to tell them what it is, right? So I'm gonna leave it. I'll leave it at that. I'll answer some questions. Sorry for talking too much. But as you can tell, I'm super, super passionate about not only being in this space, but sharing wisdom with alumni and, well, not alumni yet, but students at RIC, students that wanna co-create, and professors that wanna invite this conversation in.
No apologies necessary. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing it in that way to, I think, inspire others to think differently about their experience and think of it kind of in you know, in this context. So we have 10 minutes scheduled for this, but we also have closing community meetings. So if you're a little bit flexible, we're a little bit flexible on end time. So if anyone has questions, you can just unmute and ask or type them into the chat. Si alguien tiene preguntas, pueden escribirlas en el chat o dilos en voz alta. Yeah.
I have a question actually. Hi Javier. My name is Selena Gibbs. I'm one of the mentors for this summer's learning program for incoming Mount Pleasant high school students. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today and telling your story. It was a very, very powerful story. And I do have a question. So what advice would you give, especially to those who are undocumented and dreamers and who want to get an education? How, like, basically my question is how can you explain to them what are ways for them to advocate for themselves, especially in the education system?
Yeah, so right now PSU is creating a education guide, particularly for undocumented people, because DACA is no longer relevant.
Mm-hmm.
The DACA program was a period of time window. There are no more high school students that are in that. So we have to gear our education guides to just undocumented students. My recommendation for them is to information, right? Understand what is happening, understand what FAFSA is, although they don't need to, if they don't qualify, they don't need to do it. But schools are very, they want to have a lot of documentation for some reason. So they will ask you to do it. Knowing the options, what are your options, and understanding your realities is my suggestion, my recommendation. If you have some money to invest, excellent. That's usually not the case. But if you understand the options, like community college was my option. And as bad as I felt that community college carries this stigma of you being lesser than, that's a different conversation. But if you know that and you are building on yourself and you know that this is not a race and this is like a progress thing, you will find a good place in community college. If you have networking abilities, professors, administrators can help you get to these places. You have to be comfortable sharing that story and weaponizing that story to get you there. I think that's what I did. But that's not the case for everyone. So I don't have like a one answer to that. But I will say that education did not like save my life, but like literally liberate me from this capitalistic system in a way. Because if I don't have papers right now, so if I became undocumented tomorrow and you strip me of my work authorization, they can't take away my diplomas. They can't take away my knowledge. They can take away my writing and my analytical skills that I have gotten through all these ways. And I will find a way. And there is a way. There's an undocumented community that is thriving on this under the shadows. Right? And if you're that person, email me. We can help you out. We have helped out many people already that are undocumented right now in the Providence Public School District, giving them ideas and options instead of saying, no, you can't do this. Problem solving, options, understanding your reality, but also being aware of what's happening nationally, right? That's that research that educators, you guys need to freshen up on, talk about it maybe once in class. Hey, did you know what this is happening? How does that affect this community? Because I don't want to be the person that says, I don't know, at least for me. Thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
There's another question in the chat.
Yeah, I see it. It says, do you have any programs in place for high school students, specifically undocumented students, in order to prepare them for admissions to college? College Crusade and other programs, unfortunately, do not accept undocumented students. Wow, thank you for that. And that's why I don't have the greatest relationship with College Crusade or any of the other college prep nonprofits, because that is literally doing the opposite of your mission statement. Did you think I tried to get into College Crusade and told me, yo, no, yep. Again, no fault to them because they don't have the wherewithal of what is happening. Maybe they just, there's no visibility, they don't feel like they need to create something for it. So what we do is build raise awareness and we build visibility. And that is why I took it upon myself to be that kind of public spokesperson and raising awareness about what the undocumented student experience was. And then all these things started happening from that. PSU, and I promise you this, they will build some type of programming, a college prep programming that will not have any type of eligibility requirements because we're just sharing information. Ultimately, we're not the institutions that are going to say yes or no, but we can build you to have a very good application, very good materials, very good references, and already maybe a connection with those institutions, right? At least the ones that I have access to or other staff members have access to, right? So that's how we can do our part. But yes, I don't necessarily agree with that they don't do that. I think it's an attack directly to me and my community. But we're still inhabiting those spaces. So I'm sorry to tell them, we're still flourishing. We're still without their help, and we're succeeding. And now that I have this position, right now I can have those conversations. I can say, hey, boop, boop, let's mix it up. Hey, what's up? Why are you doing this, right? But before, especially in a predominantly white space, these conversations are not had. So things systematically are regular. They're regular. So if they don't have a problem, they're not gonna move or change in different ways.
And Javier, you tapped on so many things. I wish that we had you for another hour, actually, because I'd love to connect with you offline. But one of the things that you spoke about that I connected with the statement about the guidance counselor. I'm a guidance counselor at Mount Pleasant, and that experience that you shared is similar to my own. And one of the things that I'd like to tell my students a lot is that I'm also first generation. My parents immigrated here to the United States from West Africa. The importance of recognizing the sacrifices that our families make and taking advantage of that and making sure that we utilize our educational opportunities to really make a better life for ourselves, because that's the reason why our parents come here, right? Can you hear me?
You're cutting off in and out, but
yeah.
I can hear a little bit, yeah.
So I just wanted to say thank you. I just wanted to say thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that information.
No, anytime. And these are not easy conversations. So let's just also throw that out there, right? No student's gonna say, hey, I'm undocumented, let's talk about it, let's mix it up, right? I'm finding that right now with me. I'm very open about my immigration status. And even them, you have to build that trust, right? I came out to my guidance counselor because I had no one else to talk about that stuff with. And I hope that by planting all these seeds, especially in future educators, that they know that this conversation is coming. Because why? Just look at the demographics of the Providence Public School District, right? I think the majority of them are POC, majority of them are already low income, majority of them, their families, English is not the first language. I think the exact data is 64% of them are Latinx. So being able to speak Spanish, tener la habilidad de hablar otro idioma, especialmente español, te va a llevar, vas a encontrar a más personas que necesitan ayuda. So all these things is like a mixture of Providence being this melting pot of opportunity and talent, and educators need to figure out the best way to give access to those students, individual access, right? And I'm asking for a lot. I know this is not going to happen today and tomorrow, but we need to have these conversations, right? But thank you thank you for that. And again, my email is in there. If you guys need to mix it up with me, like I'd love to. That's another role that I'm taking in this position, is to having these difficult conversations and recreating the way we think about education for this particular group of students, right? And in Providence, the majority of them are that, right?
So I know your PSU's work is more focused on high schools, but you did mention like RIC students earlier, and I'm just wondering what ways you're envisioning that RIC students and faculty could get involved.
Yeah, so although we're focused on high schools right now, right? That's where I have inherited the long view, or the self-sufficient view, is that we start reaching out to middle schools and elementary schools. Students are already having these conversations, especially right now. And we are a youth-led organization. So the youth that are members of the Providence Student Union, that are staff and also leaders in their high schools, they can take workshops and send them out to middle schools and elementary schools, and they can do it themselves. Again, they don't need me to do that for them. The opportunity for the RIC students is to use this opportunity not as a teaching opportunity, but as a learning opportunity. If you sit in one of these workshops and just listen to what this youth has to say about their experience, that is more powerful than you trying to say, hey, this is what I learned in grad school today. Because things have changed, they've shifted. And we have to understand that these voices have been very much been oppressed for a very long time. For example, during May, June, July, after the murder of George Floyd, national protests, defunding the police campaigns started happening, and counselors, not cops, was relevant, right? That was the campaign. PSU did this in 2017 without any murder happening or police brutality incidents. It was just something that it was in the youth's mind, removing the SROs out of the schools because it made them feel uncomfortable. So for the governor to say, hey, okay, let's have an open discussion and see how we can fix this, we can say, hey, look at our record. Look at what we have built. We don't need to do this conversation again. And I think that's what we did. We declined that offer, and everyone was like, oh, PSU's doing it. I'm like, no. We're just so, the youth that were leading this work were literally emotionally, physically, spiritually just drained. That those 3 months were really hard. And how we became stronger is like, hey, listen, this is the work that we've always been doing. Let's just reassess how we are pushing this campaign forward. So Counselors Not Cops is still very relevant for us right now. We are on a path to remove all SROs out of the high schools. There are 7 of them. They make over, I'm gonna say, like $400,000 together. And that money can be repurposed for more mental health counselors, more POC guidance counselors, more POC mental health counselors, more teachers, more diverse teachers. Especially right now when we're like distance learning. What is the use of a SRO? So I just leave that out there for you guys to start thinking about those things.
Thank you. Ms. Gonzalez asked one, maybe this could be our kind of closing question. Can you talk to students about how to get involved in PSU chapters at their school? So these,
Yes.
we have incoming Mount Pleasant 9th graders. So how can they get involved?
Yes, so that was gonna be also my going away. So we need youth. We need youth. Like, this is literally the life energy of this organization. I have all these great ideas, but we're a youth-led organization. So in order to really mix it up and like really create something that is meaningful to the youth community or the students, they need to come to our space. The easiest way to do that is if you're interested in what Providence Student Union does, right? Estás interesado en lo que hace esta organización, la Unión de Estudiantes de Providence, tienes que conectarte conmigo, chequear nuestro Facebook, chequear nuestro website. Hay mucha información ahí, las campañas que estamos haciendo en estos momentos. Pero la misión es crear un nuevo sistema de educación para ustedes y también crear, dándote las herramientas que necesitas para ser una mejor persona. Que you can be a better advocate for yourself. Those are things that those resources were not given to at least to me back in my time when I went to high school, or they're not usually given to students right now. They just think that they're part of this system, and whatever the adults say is the best way to do it. The students just have to say yes. Like I remember going to school when I had to do the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, and there were like announcements, and no one questioned that. There was no question on why we had to do that, right? Someone made that rule, and like if you didn't do it, people would be like, "Hey, that's odd, right?" So the message for the students is you have 4 years in high school. You can build with us for 4 years. We provide stipends, we provide opportunities in the summer, we provide great programming and conferences throughout the year. I mean, COVID is gonna definitely play a part of it right now, but the Providence Student Union is literally just elevating itself to, we're here now, but we need to have proper representation in all the high schools, not just classical. Classical student experience is completely different than a Mount Pleasant student experience. And same thing for Central, same thing for PCTA. So there's no way that I can sit here and tell you we're a youth-led organization when we don't have chapters at every high school. We need that dimension of diversity in youth voice. We have it. We have chapters in Hope, Mount Pleasant, Classical. Central, I can see Central right here. We don't have a chapter there. PCTA, same thing, right? And then the other ones are a little bit further away, the charter schools too. So for the Mount Pleasant students that are in this call, build with us, reach out to us. We will give you the resources you need. We'll give you the gear, like PSU, we'll give you the training to properly build a chapter in there in your school. And then you can push for the things that you need. I'm just here to support. You can kind of like recruit your own way. You can push your ideas your own way. And that is the access and room for creativity that you're not going to get anywhere else, at least right now, from my assessment of what's happening. So I think that's very powerful because that is generally a youth-led initiative. And for us as adult allies, we just need to see how that develops because I don't have the right answer. And even with all the education I've gotten, this is a very specific, particular problem, and only the youth are going to help us solve it. So I'm putting, again, my email in the chat. And if you want to start a chapter in Mount Pleasant or become part of the current chapter there, I encourage you to do that, especially si hablas español o hablas otro lenguaje, porque esa representación no existe en estos momentos. Yo creo que yo soy la representación, ¿no? Porque yo fui un estudiante que tenía que tener clases de ELL, ¿no? Entonces, yo sé que también esa experiencia es diferente a la experiencia de un estudiante que tiene clases regulares. Entonces, necesitamos esa dimensión de diversidad, necesitamos tu voz. Tú tienes que ayudar a tu comunidad. Ustedes saben, you guys know who needs help in your high school. I know from the data, from things that I read in reports, I know from mixing it up with educators and students. But if you see an injustice in your high school, come bring it up, we'll fix it, right? And I guess that's my pitch. And for educators here, if you guys can spread the message through your social media, through your own networks, if you want to intern with us, if you want to just create with us, like, all you have to do is hit me up. Like, I am not only an open book, but I'm also trying to elevate your profession and really show you what it is and what isn't, right? So that's my pitch to the to the students, to the educators, the RIC students, to the Mount Pleasant students, and for the professors or the teachers, you need to invite more POC to have these hard conversations with your class. The only way they're gonna familiarize with the topic is to see someone that looks like them on it, and they'll see the path differently, right? And we know a lot of people. It doesn't have to be me. So thank you again for the invitation, and I welcome more more conversations in the future.
Thank you so much for sharing everything, and agreed with everything you said. I think we've made a great start this summer. We've had actually, I think all of our guest speakers were POC from different roles. So it's been, I think, good examples for students to see. And I'm inspired by your message and by what PSU will become under your leadership. So I'm excited.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah.
We have a long battle ahead. So
Yeah.
please hit me up if you're a RIC. I am tired of these brown kids. They are not as talented as they say they are. They just have more money.
Yeah. And I could help, like with RIC, I've talked to the career development. There are ways we can, if students have work study, we can set up work study jobs in PSU and things like that. And that can get paid
we
for,
we have direct access to not
we
only
need
the
to
youth.
say it's literacy related, and then.
We need help with tutors. We need help with
Yeah.
standardized testing. We need help with mental health counseling. We need just help, just overall, just mentor, like things that you guys are doing now in the summer program. We want to create a program around it, but be a self-sufficient and standing program that PSU just offers. And I can't do that with brown students. So again, I'm real. I can tell you, I had multiple experiences, and that they're not it. No offense to anyone that is a Brown alumni in this call, or they're thinking about Brown. It's just that this is going to be built by us for us.
Agreed.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Javier. I've been a huge supporter of PSU and have heard a lot. My sister was participated in PSU. I have students who do it, and I wish we can get more and more. And I know with this COVID, a lot of students are worried of what this is all going to look like. So I just wanted to say that, and this is not just coming from me. This is actually coming from some colleagues of mine and some student alumni, that they would love to see everyone's faces again and maybe do like some sort of Zoom. So I'm welcome to, if you ever need help, assist some sort of communication to help do something like that, maybe some sort of alumni celebration. I know that Mount Pleasant High School has been having a PSU chapter, and I know there are already students there that want to continue that. So definitely trying to figure out ways to continue to get the kids talking together. So
yeah, and I appreciate that. And again, although our space is closed for right now, if you just like, this goes to the students, if you guys need a place to work, you can still hit me up. We will open up the space for you. We just have to kind of schedule it correctly, right? I don't know if you guys saw, we have a giant mural now. We got in contact with Avanza, the artist that has been doing BLM art in Westminster, and she's a Central alumni. She was like, hey, I want to do something with you. Let's do it. And I was like, we have this giant 80-foot wall, so come visit it. Come visit me. And that's the only way that this work is going to get done. But if you get like kind of lost in the mix and in your academics, then you're going to lose track of like why you decided to do this work in the first place. And that happened to me. But I think now I'm back. I'm stronger than ever. But it's my job to share wisdom to new folks. So let's do it.
Sounds good. So we'll follow up. Yeah, it's almost 12:45. So thank you again. Muchas gracias por todo su tiempo y por compartiendo tus ideas y todo. And yeah, I will share again your email with everyone and
Thank you.
Remind them.
Yeah, and I'm also sharing. A birthday fundraiser. So if you want to mix it up with us at PSU, you can start a Facebook fundraiser. It's really simple, and we'll provide you with all the tools and things like that. We'll send you the social media toolkit and like some cool swag. But literally any dollar that you're able to raise, especially given us your birthday, I think it's not only super impactful.
I could do that. My birthday's tomorrow.
Look at that. Boom. So I share that with your networks. I don't know. I'll add you to the list.
Okay. I'm on your list. I'm on the list. But
yeah, and that's going to be, I think, super powerful if we're able to have the resources that we need, right? We're going to be able to build more and more spaces to bring you guys in as an actual program, or just have more access to folks that need it. So I really appreciate any sharing that you guys can do about that. Or like Professor Papa just said, my birthday's tomorrow, I'll do it. Awesome. But yes, I'm super accessible. Just hit me up. We'll mix it up, and just looking forward to the work that you guys produce. And for the students, please, I'm here. We're here. We're going to do this, and we're going to be okay in the fall. PSU is going to play a big part in advocating for the right things, just like the Pass Fail campaign that happened, right, in distance learning. But we need more youth, younger youth too. So let us know.
Okay, thank you again.
All right, y'all. Thank you
right.
so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.